After watching the videos on Hans Rosling's The Magic Washing Machine and Sheryl WuDunn's Our Century's Greatest Injustice, I wanted to talk about some of my thoughts on these. First, one of the biggest things I think I've noticed is the fact that the 8 Millennial Development Goals overlap with each other quite a bit. Like, the point of these videos here were to address the inequality of women and fighting for equality of women. And a big reason that there's inequality is because of poverty and lack of education, which are also the first two Millennial Development Goals to fix. So I feel like if we fix these goals, some of the other goals might self-correct. For example, Hans Rosling talks a lot about the need for basic things. Like, he talks about a washing machine, for example. If women had a washing machine to clean clothes each week, they would save hours each week and could use that time. Like, his example was they went to the library and read instead. That time that's used to labor around the home, when people have the money to have conveniences such as washing machines, they have the time to go get educated also instead. And I think that's a big thing. The money factor is a huge thing in education, especially for women. I feel like probably the number one reason that's always pointed out that women or that girls don't get an education is because their family can't afford to educate all their children, and the boys are always chosen to go to school first. So, I mean, really, I think the biggest fix to give women equal opportunity in education is to offer free schooling or to offer subsidies to families for their girls going to school. Because, as we've seen, girls going to school leads to an educated family, and they're more productive, and they get out of the cycle of poverty. But they're always the second choice for who gets to go to school if it has to be chosen based on the money factor. And so by offering free education, both boys and girls should be able to go to school, and this should help to bridge that gender gap of equality and helping empower women. In talking about Sheryl WuDunn's video, I have some critiques of her video, but there's also some good things to take out of it. So I'm going to start with my critiques. The first one is in bringing about emotion about the injustices towards women, she presents biased information. For example, her statistic comparison of there was 80,000 slaves back in pre-Civil War in the U.S. versus 800,000 slaves in sex trafficking nowadays. That's a biased statistic because she's comparing the slaves that were in the U.S. in the early 1800s to all the slaves in sex trafficking in the world. In the world in the 1800s, there was a lot more slaves than 80,000 still. And I don't know if she doesn't realize that, but I mean, she's trying to make it seem like stuff's taken a step backwards, and it hasn't. We're working to get rid of stuff, but there's still a long way to go. And that point of her view is good, that there's a long way to go still. The next criticism I had was the fact that she says that men and women need to work together to make this change in empowering women and creating gender equality. But being a feminist, she's obviously attacking men in her speech a lot of the time. Why would men want to help her cause if she's going to attack them and say, well, you're the reason that we have this problem? It is true in some cases, but she needs to be open and not criticizing of the men who do want to help. When she stereotypes all men, then she's hurting her cause for men to actually help with this cause. Those were my main critiques of the video, but there was some good things to take out of this video still. One of them was the fact that there's a big overlap between things. If you empower women by educating them and giving them opportunities in the workforce, for example, then they will make a much more productive society, and she definitely emphasizes that. Another big one is her emphasis on the fact that that there is a lot of injustice in the world still. So there is sex trafficking, and women are sold into slavery still. And so she's calling for a change in that. And while I don't think she necessarily presents a solution to that problem, she raises awareness of the problem, which is a step in the right direction. I feel like overall both of these videos help to explain the reasons that women need to be educated and how to help the developing world in this so that they can come out of poverty. And I think that a big thing again is a lot of parents or older generations don't see the point to education. I think a big improving factor would be to explain to these older generations how educating children, and especially girls, can help their families get out of the poverty-stricken areas and circumstances in which they live. And I think the only way this really can happen is through them seeing direct results. So their children will have to tough out their grandparents saying, don't go to school, it's dumb, it's a waste of time, until their grandparents can finally have a change of heart from seeing their success. And those are my thoughts on this video.